The wind howled outside as the snow blanketed the small suburban neighborhood. It was quiet, save the occasional gust of wind and the creaking of the old house against the cold. It was a typical winter evening for 13-year-old Hannah, who was home alone. Her parents had gone out of town for the weekend, leaving her with strict instructions not to leave the house and to stay in her room with the door locked. Hannah was a brave girl, but even she was starting to feel a little uneasy. She had been hearing strange noises coming from downstairs, and she was beginning to dread going to bed. Just as she was about to drift off to sleep, she heard a loud crash from downstairs. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew she had to see what was happening, so she slowly crept out of her bedroom and down the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, she saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was a man wearing an old-fashioned suit and a top hat. He seemed to be looking right at her, and his eyes were a deep, eerie black. Hannah was too scared to move, so she just stood there, trembling. Suddenly, the figure started to speak. "I've been watching you for a while now," he said in a deep, menacing voice. "I know you're home alone, and I'm here to take you away with me. Now, come with me and don't make a sound or I'll make sure you regret it." Hannah was terrified. She knew she had to do something, but what? She thought about running, but the figure was blocking her path. She thought about calling the police, but she was too scared to make any noise. Just then, a noise from upstairs caught her attention. It was her parents, coming home early. The figure seemed to realize this as well, because he suddenly dashed out the door and into the night. Hannah raced upstairs and hugged her parents tight. She explained to them what had happened, but they were too shocked to do anything more than hug her. The next morning, Hannah was a mess. She stayed up all night, afraid that the figure would come back. She was so exhausted that she almost slept through school the next day. At lunch, her friends noticed something was wrong and asked her what was wrong. She told them about the figure and they were all too frightened to even speak. That night, as she was getting ready for bed, she heard a noise coming from downstairs. She crept down the stairs and saw the figure standing in the same spot as he had the night before. He stepped forward and said, "I'm here to take you away with me, and this time you won't be able to escape." Hannah was too scared to move, but she managed to find her voice and screamed as loud as she could. The figure seemed to hesitate, and then suddenly, he vanished. She ran upstairs and locked her door, not daring to leave her room until morning. The next day, Hannah's parents called the police and reported the incident. The police searched the neighborhood but found no trace of the figure. For the rest of the winter, Hannah was too scared to ever be home alone again. She made sure someone was always with her, whether it was her parents or her friends. But even though she was safe, she still had nightmares about the figure in the shadows. She would wake up in a cold sweat, and the thought of him coming back would haunt her for weeks. Today, when Hannah is alone in her house, she remembers the figure and the fear she felt that night. She knows that it was just a nightmare, but it still scares her to think that something like that could happen to her. And no matter how many years pass, she will never forget that night, when she faced her own ghostly nightmare. What is your worst nightmare or scariest horror story that you would like to hear? Comment down below, and I will make your dream come true. See you on the next episode, it might be your story. Thanks for watching.